Now, this is very complicated. There's been a lot of chatter about this. We first envisioned questions 1, 2, and 3 being a simple yes or no, that you could drop a ballot off out at the welcome desk and let us know your answer. And if over 50% of you said yes or no, that would be the outcome of the repurposing project as it related to that, as well as the explanation of refunding the $12 that Bob just walked you through due to Revenue Ruling 70-604. Per our CC&Rs, we were not allowed to do that. We had to go through the delegate voting process. Now, I have been working as president of this board for in my 3rd year. I have grown to know virtually every single man and woman that serves in this capacity as a delegate. And far and away, they take their responsibilities very seriously to communicate and to do exactly what you want them to do. Their charge is to let us know what you want us to know, and to let them know what we want you to know, and to serve as that connection conduit for the communication. But in this fashion, they are obligated to execute as you tell them to execute. There are 2 different types of ballots that a delegate has to cast. One is a directed ballot. And a directed ballot says, what is the issue that I'm voting on? How do I vote? And then I sign it, and I date it, and I give it to my delegate. And how that ballot is filled out, they must vote that way. That's a directed ballot. There is a discretionary ballot. If you're out of town and you haven't turned in your ballot, they have 2 ways that they can vote. This is all by our CC&Rs that have existed since this community has existed. The first way they can vote is exactly how they feel, as a discretionary vote. If you have not given them your direction, they can vote exactly how they feel. Or per the CC&Rs, they can vote on a percentage basis. Let's take hypothetically. You've got 10 votes left that are discretionary. You have 30 votes that have been cast, 20 said yes, 10 said no. So that would say that 67% said yes, so that would be 7 votes. And the remaining 30% would be 3 votes. So they would vote 7 yes, 3 no. So those are the kind of votes that the delegate can cast. And there's been confusion around this, so well, delegates can just do whatever they want. They cannot. If you do what you need to do, give them your signed ballot, fill it out, and tell them your answer to these 4 questions. The questions are, do you want us to do this clubhouse repurposing or not at a cost not to exceed $3 million? If the answer is yes or no, do you approve of us doing that, securing that with a bank loan up to $2 million of that $3 million, and securing it against future monthly dues, as opposed to putting a mortgage on Heritage Eagle Bend? Now, several of us have come out here and needed a loan to buy our house, and we have 15-year, 30-year, or some of us pay cash for our houses. But we said, rather than obligate Heritage Eagle Bend for 9 years, 84 months, that we said, no, that's not the best way to go. And incidentally, banks wouldn't let us do that anyway. They said the only security we will accept is if you secure it against the future monthly dues. So if Russ moves out of here in 2 years, he's going to have a monthly homeowner's dues. In that will be a capital improvement fund assessment. Currently, we're saying $15. The new person who comes in and buys Russ's house, comes in and picks up his HOA dues, and it continues to make it work. Russ is on down the road, no longer obligated or tied to the repayment of this loan. We think it's the best, banks think it's the best. So that's the second question. The third question says, if we make more money this year, and by our forecast we're scheduled to make $176,000 of net income, then our expenses, do we refund, correction, if we have more revenue than our expenses, which is $176,000, do we want us to give it back to you? Or do you want us to keep it and manage it for you and use it for things such as paying roads faster than we did last year? So yes says you get your $12 back every month, or no says we would keep it in the operating fund for the community and use it prudently. But your question number 3 is yes or no, and then finally, well, stop. Those 3 questions will be decided by a balance of 50+%. So if 50+% of you say yes or no, that's the way it's going to go here. And 1 and 2 are intertwined. We can't do the project without borrowing money. So if 1 is yes but 2 is no, we can't do it. If 2 is yes and 1 is no, we can't do it. But number 3 stands alone. Lastly, as you have always done through your delegates, do you approve this 2018 budget as presented at $251? So when we get started taking your questions, please let us know what you do or don't understand about this is your ballot and how you're going to fill it out for your residents, or and hand it to your delegate. Now, just before we transition to Q&A, there's a couple of things that I want to visit with you about. The single biggest concern that we have had about the postings on Nextdoor is a legitimate concern on your part and our part about the fact that the tax returns that we have submitted, well, first concern was that we even submitted tax returns. And no, seriously, the second concern was, have we done so in a fraudulent manner? And then lastly, that if we've done all of that in some fashion, that we have this looming tax liability that's hanging out there, that's going to, how in the heck could we ever finance something like we're proposing when we've got this potential tax liability that's hanging out there? So, we listened to you. We were absolutely, and we set up here and we told you at the repurposing that we stand by the fact that every single thing that we have turned in, and our audited financials are on the website, was done in total compliance with every law at the federal and state level. But a couple of weeks ago, we said we need some better assurance. So we went and reached out to a very high-profile tax attorney practicing in Colorado and for both federal and state. As of 10 o'clock this morning, here is his updated assessment of where we stand in his opinion. Quote, independent legal counsel has advised that to date, based on his review of HEBMA's tax returns, other information supplied by him by our independent auditor, and preparer of our tax returns since 2011, OB got here in 13, and his research, nothing has come to his attention to conclude that the tax returns as filed are deficient, nor is there reason to conclude that HEBMA has exposure to significant unpaid tax liabilities. We expect to have a written formal opinion, hopefully by the end of this week, but not later than a week from today. Within the next week, we're going to have a formal written opinion. Best believe that the minute that we get that, it will be e-blasted out to every single one of you on his letterhead and give you his final opinion. The second thing that was concerning and is concerning to us, several of you have received a 2-page documentary from a friend of mine who challenges our thought process around the issue of the structural potential of altering this building, or that we can get a permit through the city of Aurora. This is a quote from a principal in a structural engineering company that has seen our detailed architectural drawings. Now, for those of you that are not in the construction industry, like me, there is an item called as-builts. And that's what the original master plan is of how you're going to build something. And from there, they have the detailed architectural drawings. The as-builts for this building do not exist, to the best of anyone's knowledge. Ours, management, previous boards, they just don't exist. But what we do have are detailed architectural drawings with notes, which I am told by those in the industry are very common, that when you go in and see how a building is altered as it's being built, they make those notes on the detailed architectural drawings. And that's what we have. So those detailed architectural drawings were sent by Marsh to a principal of a well-known structural engineering firm in this community or in this city. And this is an email from the principal of a structural engineering firm that would most likely be engaged if the repurposing project is approved. Quote, I spoke with Dan Parker at Rocky Mountain Pre-Stress, and he is confident the T's can be cut and resupported, possibly by the adjacent T. The infill area is pretty large and will likely need to be steel with a concrete slab instead of precast due to erection issues. So there's also a construction owner in this community, perhaps even in this audience, that was as recently as yesterday cutting precast concrete steel or concrete T's. It is done, I am told, with a great deal of regularity. Now, for those of you that are saying, what in the world is he talking about? This building, we're told, is really built somewhat like a parking garage. And it has concrete girders in it that are in the form of a T, if you look at them from the end. And through that concrete are tensioned steel cables. And so that's what it is that's holding up, particularly where we're proposing to cut through the floor. But he is saying that the people that make those things is not concerned about cutting through them. Now, some of the other issues raised in my friend's 2-page letter is that the structural assessment of this is extremely difficult, or extremely complex is the way that he says it, based upon the fact that we don't have the as-builts. I'm told by the people that do it, don't know that this is true, but this is what I've been told by more than one source, that it is not extremely complex, thus the message in this email that I just read. Goes on to say that x-rays costing $500 to $1,000 will have to be taken, numerous x-rays, to find out where those steel cables are. First of all, our sources tell you that x-rays cost $100 to $200, not $500 to $1,000, and they're very easily located, and yes, we might have to do some x-raying to find the steel cables. Next was the fact that the wall that we proposed to cut into on this side of the gym, to enlarge the gym, would also need to have extensive x-raying done to it, and that would be a very difficult thing to do. Our sources tell us that load-bearing wall is shored. It is not at all an issue, much like the steel T's. Then they go on and he says that the clubhouse could be closed for 6 to 12 months. Well, the entire project is only going to cost take 6 to 7 months to do, so we don't think that that's true. Nor do we think that it's going to need to be closed in its entirety, as best we know, at all during the process. although parts of it certainly could need to be closed for various construction reasons while we're doing the construction process. And lastly, it says that the permitting process by the city would be extremely expensive and difficult. Well, the permitting process that these people that do it all the time tell us that we should plan on 1 to 2 months to get through the city of Aurora. There's 3 different gates that it has to go through, if you will, down City Hall. And that's an unpredictable time frame. One month would be great, 2 months is maybe certainly going to happen. But it goes on and on about this lack of the structural engineering at this point. Now, we could have done that, incrementally increased the cost on the front end before we even have from you whether or not the decision should be to do it or not. So we chose to put it into the recipe on the back side of the equation. Do you want to do it if it's a feasible project? And we believe it is. So the design numbers that Bob took great care to take you through, they include all design and inspections, architecture, interior design, structural engineering, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineering, and food equipment design. And we believe, based upon the experts, that we can accomplish all of those things in 6 to 8 weeks and have our permit request down to City Hall. So we wanted to revisit those. And with that said, we are now at your part of the program.